Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. Vibrant chaos of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Horns blare, street vendors hawk their wares, and the humid air shimmers with life. In the midst of this, Amara Okoye, 28, sits at her cluttered desk in a cramped, rented office space. Her face, illuminated by the glow of her laptop, is etched with stress. A montage flashes, Amara at an elegant family party, forcing a smile as her mother, Mrs. Okoye, whispers, "When will you settle down, Amara?" Faye is younger, and look at her. The scene cuts to Faye, Amara's 25-year-old sister, flaunting a dazzling diamond engagement ring, her laughter ringing over champagne flutes. Then, a close-up of an eviction notice pinned to Amara's desk, final warning, vacate by month's end. Amara's voiceover narrates, "I always thought my life would be about code, not wedding bells. But in Port Harcourt, family expectations are a heavier burden than any algorithm." She's a brilliant AI developer, pouring her soul into MindWeave, a startup aimed at revolutionizing education through AI-driven learning tools. Her prototype is groundbreaking, but funding is drying up. Investors are skeptical of a single woman with no stability to anchor her ambition. The final blow comes in an email from the prestigious Zenith Tech Incubator, offering a $500,000 grant that could save MindWeave. The catch: the program prioritizes stable, married applicants for their proven commitment. At a family dinner, the tension is palpable. The dining room is opulent, with polished mahogany and crystal chandeliers. Mrs. Okoye, impeccably dressed, leans toward Amara. "You're 28, Amara. Faye's wedding is in 3 months. What are you waiting for? You can't keep chasing this tech dream alone." Faye smirks, twirling her ring. "Maybe if you had a husband, your investors wouldn't think you're such a risk, sis." Amara's jaw tightens. "I'm building something that could change lives, Mom. Marriage isn't my priority." Mrs. Okoye scoffs. "Change lives? You can't even keep your office. Find a man, Amara. Stability matters." That night, alone in her tiny apartment, Amara stares at the Zenith email. Her savings are gone, her team is on the verge of quitting, and the eviction notice looms. Desperation sparks a reckless idea. "If they want a married woman, I'll give them one," she mutters, her eyes blazing with determination. "I just need a husband. A fake one." Down Agri Road, a gritty artery of old Port Harcourt, where dust swirls and life hums. David, a lean man in a faded blue uniform, sweeps the street with rhythmic precision. His hands move with quiet confidence, but his face, handsome, thoughtful, hints at a story untold. The sun catches a flicker of intensity in his eyes, a man who sees more than the dust he sweeps. Amara's sleek SUV slows to a stop. She steps out, her tailored blazer and heels stark against the street's raw energy. Hesitant, she approaches David, clutching her purse. "Excuse me," she says, her voice wavering. David pauses, leaning on his broom, his gaze steady but curious. I have a proposition," Amara stammers. "It's unconventional, but hear me out." She glances around, ensuring no one's listening. "I need someone to pretend to be my husband. Just for a few months. I'll pay you, well, 5 million naira. David's eyebrow arches, but his expression remains unreadable. 5 million. For a fake marriage. His voice is low, with a hint of amusement. "What's the catch, lady?" Amara exhales, her pitch rushed. "I run a startup. It's about to collapse unless I get a grant. They're old-fashioned, prefer married people. I need someone believable. You seem reliable." David studies her, his silence unnerving. "You don't even know my name." "Exactly," Amara says, a nervous laugh escaping. "No one knows you. That's the point. Clean slate. What's your name, anyway?" "David," he says simply, but the camera zooms on his eyes, a flicker of something hidden. Unbeknownst to Amara, David is Chibuzer Vance, the estranged son of Richard Vance, Nigeria's reclusive tech billionaire. Chibuzer abandoned his father's empire, Vance Innovations, 2 years ago, choosing the anonymity of manual labor to escape a life of control and privilege. He sweeps streets not out of necessity, but to find authenticity, connection, something real. Amara's wild offer intrigues him. It's a chance to live a different lie, one that might lead to something genuine. "Why me?" David asks, leaning closer, his voice soft but probing. "You could have picked anyone." Amara hesitates, then meets his gaze. "You look honest. Like you've got nothing to prove." A slow smile tugs at David's lips. "All right, Amara. I'm in. But we do this my way. No fancy nonsense. Just real enough to fool them." "Deal," she says, extending her hand. His grip is firm, warm. The screen cuts to a close-up of their handshake, the city buzzing around them, with the text, "What's he hiding?" A cozy, dimly lit cafe in old Port Harcourt, far from prying eyes. Amara and David sit across from each other, a notebook open between them. The table is littered with coffee cups and scribbled notes. The camera captures their dynamic, Amara's intensity, David's calm focus. "We need a story," Amara says, tapping her pen. "How we met, why we're together. It has to be airtight." David leans back, his arms crossed. "Simple's best. We met at a community event. I helped fix something, your car, maybe. You liked my practicality." Amara snorts. "Practicality? That's not very romantic." "Romance isn't always flowers," David counters, his voice warm. "It's in the small things. Like how you smile when you talk about your AI. That's what I'd notice." Amara blinks, caught off guard by his insight. "Okay, fine. Car trouble, community event. We fell in love fast, got engaged quietly. No big wedding plans, keeps it vague." David nods, jotting it down. "And we're private people. Don't like the spotlight. That'll explain why no one's heard of me." Their planning is intercut with a stark contrast. Richard Vance in his sleek, high-tech office in Lagos. The billionaire, silver-haired and imposing, stares at a screen displaying financial data. His assistant, a sharp-eyed woman, hands him a report. "Chibuzer's accounts are dormant, sir. No trace of him. It's like he vanished." Richard's jaw tightens. "No one vanishes from me. Find him." The camera lingers on his cold eyes, then cuts back to the cafe. Amara introduces David to her family at another lavish dinner. Faye eyes him skeptically, her fiancé, tunned, smirking. "A street sweeper, Amara? Really?" Faye says, her tone dripping with disdain. David smiles, unfazed. "It's honest work. Keeps the city moving." Mrs. Okoye narrows her eyes. "And your family, David? Where are they from?" "Small village, up north," David says smoothly. "We're not close. I prefer making my own way." Amara watches, impressed by his composure. Amara's modest one-room apartment, now shared with David. A single bed, a fold-out cot, and a desk cluttered with tech gadgets. They're in the thick of their charade, attending family dinners, church groups, and a crucial meet-and-greet at the Zenith incubator. The camera captures their performance. David's hand on Amara's back, her practiced smile. But the strain is evident. At a family dinner, Mrs. Okoye corners David. "So, David, what did you study? You must have some education to keep up with our Amara." David chuckles, deflecting. "I studied life, ma'am. Learned more from fixing things than any classroom." Faye rolls her eyes. "Charming. But what's your plan? You can't sweep streets forever." Amara interjects, her voice sharp. "He's supporting me, Faye. That's more than enough." Later, alone in the apartment, Amara notices David tinkering with her laptop. "What are you doing?" she asks, peering over his shoulder. "Your network was glitching," he says casually. "Fixed it. You had a routing issue." Amara's eyes widen. "That's been driving me crazy for days." "How did you?" David shrugs, a hint of a smile. "I pick things up." The camera zooms on Amara's puzzled expression, then cuts to the incubator event. David, in a borrowed blazer, stands awkwardly among tech elites. Amara shines, pitching Mindweave with passion. But whispers follow them. "Her husband's a what?" "A cleaner." A lively church group meeting, young professionals mingling over snacks. Amara, radiant in a simple dress, chats with colleagues, but the whispers persist. A tech bro, smug, leans in. Amara, you're brilliant, but, a street sweeper? You could do better. Amara's smile vanishes. Better, she snaps, her voice rising. David's kind, dependable, and supports my dreams. What's your excuse for being single, eh? Too busy judging others. The room quiets, heads turning. David, nearby, overhears, his expression unreadable. The critic slinks away, but the damage is done. Amara storms outside, her breath shaky. David follows, finding her on a quiet bench, staring at the stars. You didn't have to do that, he says softly, sitting beside her. Amara wipes her eyes. They don't know you. It's not fair. David's gaze softens. You don't know me either, Amara. But, thank you. No one's ever fought for me like that. Their eyes meet, a charged moment. Amara feels a warmth she can't explain. Why do you let them think so little of you? She asks. David hesitates, then looks away. Sometimes, it's easier to be invisible. The camera lingers on his face, a flicker of pain. A vibrant montage of Port Harcourt's bustling streets, fading into Amara's cramped apartment. The camera pans over a cluttered desk where Amara and David sit, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scribbled notes. Amara's laptop glows, displaying Mindweave's complex AI interface. She's explaining her latest algorithm, her voice tinged with frustration. It's supposed to adapt to each student's learning style, but the response time is still too slow. David, leaning over her shoulder, studies the screen. Mind if I take a look? He asks, his tone casual but curious. Amara raises an eyebrow. You. It's advanced neural networking, David. No offense, but... He cuts her off with a gentle smile. Humor me. The camera zooms on his hands as he takes a napkin and sketches a series of intricate diagrams. Nodes, connections, equations. Amara's jaw drops. You're rerouting the data flow through a hybrid model? She asks, stunned. That's brilliant. Where did you learn this? David shrugs, his eyes twinkling. I read a lot. Libraries are free, you know. The camera catches a flicker of secrecy in his expression, planting a seed of intrigue. Later, at a local cafe, they discuss Mindweave's market strategy. Amara's pitching to potential investors soon, and she's nervous. They'll tear me apart if I don't show growth potential, she says, sipping her tea. David leans forward, his voice steady. You're focusing too much on urban schools. Rural areas, smaller communities, they're underserved. Your AI could bridge that gap. Low-cost tablets, cloud-based updates. You dominate a niche market. Amara stares, her tea forgotten. That's exactly what I've been missing. How do you know this? He grins, deflecting. I listen to people. Streets teach you more than boardrooms. The scene shifts to Amara at home, Googling David plus Port Harcourt plus tech, finding nothing. Her brow furrows. Why is he so hard to pin down? A sleek Lagos office, where Richard Vance, the imposing billionaire, looms over a high-tech console. Data streams across the screen, bank records, surveillance footage. His assistant, Ms. Okonkwo, delivers a report. Still no trace of Chibuzer, sir. His accounts are frozen, but he's using cash. He's invisible. Richard slams his fist on the desk. Invisible? My son doesn't get to walk away from me. Deploy the silencers. I want him found now. The camera lingers on his cold eyes, then cuts to David in Port Harcourt, sweeping Agri Road at dawn. His phone buzzes with an anonymous text, "Return to Vance Innovations, or you'll regret it." His face hardens, but he deletes the message, his hands trembling slightly. Back at the apartment, Amara notices David's distraction. They're cooking dinner, egusi soup, a rare moment of domestic ease. You okay? She asks, stirring the pot. You've been off. David forces a smile, chopping vegetables. Just work stuff. Long days. His voice is tight, and Amara's not convinced. David, if something's wrong, you can tell me, she says, her tone soft but firm. We're in this together, right? He pauses, his knife hovering. Yeah. Together. But his eyes avoid hers, and the camera zooms on the tension in his jaw. Later, alone, he checks his phone again. Another text. You can't hide forever, Chibuzzer. The name, Chibuzzer, flashes on screen, a shock to viewers who know him as David. A quiet evening in the apartment. Amara and David sharing a simple meal of jollof rice. The atmosphere is warm, intimate. Amara laughs, recounting a childhood story. I used to hide in my dad's study, pretending I was a scientist. What about you? What did kid David dream of? David hesitates, then smiles softly. I wanted to build things. Not just machines, communities, connections. Something real. His voice carries a weight that makes Amara pause. That's beautiful, she says, her eyes searching his. You're not like anyone I've ever met. The moment lingers, their fake engagement blurring into something genuine. But the charade isn't perfect. At a formal dinner with Amara's tech colleagues, David fumbles with etiquette, using the wrong fork. Amara gently corrects him, whispering, soup spoons on the right. He nods, grateful, and mimics her movements with surprising grace. Later, she coaches him in their apartment. When you meet the incubator board, stand tall, make eye contact. They'll judge you, but you're smarter than they think. David listens intently, practicing a firm handshake. Like this? He asks, his hand lingering in hers. Perfect, Amara says, her voice catching. The camera captures the spark between them, but the moment is interrupted by another anonymous text on David's phone, unseen by Amara, time's running out. His face clouds, and he excuses himself. Amara watches him go, her heart heavy. Sweeps over Port Harcourt's waterfront at dusk, the sky ablaze with orange and pink. Amara and David walk through a bustling night market, celebrating a small investment secured thanks to their marriage. David suggested the market over a fancy restaurant, and Amara's thrilled by the change. Stalls brim with roasted plantains, suya skewers, and colorful fabrics. The energy is infectious, and the camera captures their laughter as they share a stick of spicy beef. This is better than any five-star place, Amara says, licking sauce off her fingers. How do you know all these spots? David grins, handing her a bottle of Zobo. I've walked every corner of this city. You learn where the heart is. He points to a vendor grilling corn. That guy, Mr. Obi, lost his shop in a fire last year. Still smiles, still feeds people. That's real strength. Amara watches him, her heart swelling. You see people, don't you? Not just things. He meets her gaze, his voice soft. I see you, Amara. Your passion, your fight. It's why He stops, catching himself. The camera zooms on Amara's hopeful expression, but David changes the subject, pointing to a street performer. Let's check that out. They dance to a local band's rhythm, their movements free, unscripted. For the first time, they forget the pretense. David spins Amara, and she laughs, her eyes sparkling. As they pause, catching their breath, he looks at her with unguarded tenderness. You make this city brighter, he says, almost a whisper. Amara's breath catches. The Port Harcourt Tech Gala, a glittering event in a grand ballroom. Chandeliers cast a golden glow, and tech elites mingle in tailored suits and elegant gowns. Amara, radiant in a deep blue dress, navigates the crowd with confidence, pitching mind weave. David, in a borrowed suit, looks out of place, tugging at his tie. The camera captures his discomfort, but also his quiet pride as he watches Amara shine. As they move through the crowd, an older man, Mr. Adebayo, a tech veteran and former associate of Richard Vance, stops dead, staring at David. Chibuzzer, he whispers, his face pale. Chibuzzer Vance. David freezes, his smile vanishing. You've got the wrong guy, he says quickly, steering Amara away. She frowns, catching the exchange. Who was that? She asks. No one, David replies, too fast. The camera zooms on Amara's troubled expression. Later, as they dance, she presses him. David, what's going on? That man knew you. It's nothing, he insists, but his eyes betray panic. The camera pans to Mr. Adebayo, now on his phone, speaking urgently. I found him, sir. It's definitely Chibuzzer. A haunting piano melody, the camera panning over Amara's dimly lit apartment at midnight. She's hunched over her laptop, the glow illuminating her tense face. The Port Harcourt Tech Gala earlier that evening left her unsettled. Mr. Adebayo's shocked recognition of David as Chibuzzer replays in her mind. The camera zooms on her furrowed brow as she types furiously, David plus Port Harcourt, then Chibuzzer plus Nigeria. Nothing useful. Frustrated, she tries Chibuzzer Vance. The search results load, and Amara's breath catches. Articles and grainy society photos flood the screen. Young Chibuzzer Vance, heir to Vance Innovations, at Lagos charity ball, and Richard Vance's son tipped to lead tech empire. The face in the photos, clean-shaven, in a tailored suit, is unmistakably David's. Her hands tremble as she clicks through, each headline a gut punch. A close-up shows her eyes welling with tears, her expression shifting from confusion to betrayal. Chibuzzer Vance, she whispers, her voice raw. He's a billionaire's son. The camera flashes back to moments of David sweeping Agri Road, his quiet humility, her defending him against snide remarks. The shame of those moments, friends mocking her street sweeper husband, burns anew. She slams her laptop shut, tears streaming down her face. In the next room, David sleeps on the fold-out cot, unaware of her discovery. The camera lingers on his peaceful face, then cuts to Amara, her resolve hardening. He lied to me, she mutters. Everything was a lie. The apartment at dawn, the air heavy with tension. Amara stands by the window, clutching printed articles and photos from her late-night search. David stirs, sensing her mood. Amara. You okay? He asks, rubbing his eyes. She whirls around, her voice shaking with fury. Who are you, David? Or should I say Chibuzzer? She throws the papers at him, photos scattering across the floor. Chibuzzer Vance, heir to Vance Innovations. You let me believe you were nobody. You watched me defend you, humiliate myself. David's face pales, his eyes darting to the articles. Amara, I can explain. Explain what? She snaps, her voice breaking. That you're a billionaire's son playing a game? I trusted you. I told everyone you were honest, kind. And you're, what? Hiding from Daddy's money. David steps toward her, his voice low, desperate. It's not like that. I left that life because it was suffocating. My father, he controls everything. I wanted something real, Amara. I found it with you. Real, she scoffs, tears spilling. Our whole marriage is a lie. You let me fall for you, knowing it was built on this deception. Her voice cracks, raw with pain. I looked like a fool, David. For you. David's shoulders slump, his eyes glistening. I never meant to hurt you. I was going to tell you, I swear. I just didn't know how. Get out, Amara says, her voice cold. I can't do this anymore. David hesitates, then grabs his jacket, his face devastated. A packed university lecture hall, the atmosphere electric for the Zenith Tech Incubator's final pitch event. Amara stands on stage, her face composed but pale, pitching Mindweave with fierce determination. Our AI adapts to every learner, breaking barriers in education, she says, her voice steady despite her heartbreak. The crowd applauds, but her eyes scan the audience, landing on David, who slipped in to support her despite their fight. Their gazes lock, a flicker of pain passing between them. Suddenly, the hall's doors burst open. Richard Vance, a towering figure in a bespoke suit, strides in, flanked by two burly security guards. The camera zooms on his steely eyes, then pans to the stunned audience. There he is. Richard booms, pointing at David. My prodigal son, Chibuzzer Vance, who prefers sweeping streets to running an empire. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Amara freezes mid-sentence, her microphone trembling. David stands, his jaw tight, as whispers erupt. Vance? The Vance Innovations. The camera captures Amara's shock. She knew his secret, but not its public cost. Richard storms toward the stage, his voice dripping with venom. You think you can hide from me, Chibuzzer? You're a disgrace. The lecture hall is chaos, phones recording, voices murmuring. Richard Vance seizes the microphone from a stunned organizer, his presence commanding. "Chibuzur Vance," he declares, his voice echoing, "you've shamed our family. You abandoned your legacy for... what? A broom. A fake marriage." He sneers at Amara, who flinches but holds her ground. The camera zooms on David, his face a mix of defiance and pain. He steps forward, his voice calm but resolute. "I'm not your pawn, father. I chose a life that means something. You can't control me anymore." Richard's eyes narrow. "Then you're no son of mine." He turns to the crowd. As of today, Chibuzur Vance is disinherited. No fortune, no name, nothing. The audience gasps, cameras flashing. Amara's eyes widen. She hadn't realized the stakes of David's rebellion. David doesn't waver. He looks at Amara, his gaze steady. "I don't need your money, father. I never did." The camera captures a tear in Amara's eye, her heart torn between betrayal and admiration. Richard storms out, leaving silence in his wake. The lecture hall is still, the crowd holding its breath. David, ignoring the chaos, walks to the stage, taking the microphone. The camera zooms on his face, raw with emotion. "I'm not Chibuzur Vance anymore," he says, his voice clear. "I'm David. 2 years ago, I left my father's world because it was a cage. I wanted a life where I could be seen for who I am, not what I'm worth." He turns to Amara, who's frozen on stage. "Amara, I lied about my past, and I'm sorry. But I never lied about how I feel. You're the most incredible person I've ever met. Your passion, your courage, your heart. You taught me what love means. I love you, not as a Vance, not as a lie, but as me." The crowd murmurs, some tearing up. Amara's face softens, memories flashing, their night market date, his napkin algorithms, her defending him. The camera cuts to a flashback of their laughter, their shared dreams. "Back on stage," David continues, "I don't have money or a name anymore. But I have you, if you'll have me." Amara's lips tremble, her eyes locked on his. Her slow nod, a silent forgiveness. The crowd erupts in applause, but the moment is theirs alone. A soft, golden sunrise over Port Harcourt, the camera lingering on the city's vibrant streets. Inside the lecture hall, the air is still charged from David's public confession. Amara stands on stage, her eyes locked on David, who's just bared his soul, declaring his love despite his disinheritance. The crowd watches, breathless. The camera zooms on Amara's face. Her conflict is palpable, torn between the sting of his deception and the raw honesty of his words. Flashbacks flood the screen, David fixing her laptop, their laughter at the night market, her fierce defense against snide remarks. Amara's voiceover whispers, "He lied about who he was, but not about who we were together." Her eyes soften, a tear escaping. She steps toward David, the microphone trembling in her hand. "You broke my trust," she says, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "But you also showed me what real love looks like. I see you, David. Not Chibuzur Vance. You." The crowd gasps, some clapping softly. David's face lights up, hope flickering in his eyes. Amara nods, a silent promise of forgiveness, a vow to rebuild. The camera captures their hands intertwining, a moment of quiet strength. Off stage, an incubator judge whispers to another, her passion's undeniable. "And that husband, he's got grit." A bustling, working-class neighborhood in Port Harcourt. The camera pans over a tiny, sparsely furnished room, barely bigger than Amara's old apartment. A single bed, a rickety table, and a shared laptop mark their new reality. David, now fully embracing his identity as David, not Chibuzur, carries boxes in, his shirt damp with sweat. Amara, in jeans and a t-shirt, unpacks, her face resolute but content. "You sure about this?" David asks, setting down a crate. "It's not exactly a penthouse." Amara laughs, nudging him. "I didn't fall for a penthouse. I fell for you." The camera captures their playful ease, a stark contrast to their earlier tension. David takes on odd jobs, delivering packages, fixing electronics, while Amara pours her energy into mind weave. The incubator grant is still in play, and she's refining her pitch, fueled by David's quiet encouragement. One evening, they sit on the floor, sharing a bowl of pepper soup. "I got a call back from Zenith," Amara says, her eyes bright. They loved the rural education angle you suggested. David grins, wiping his hands. Told you. It's your vision, Amara. I'm just the guy cheering you on. She leans against him, their shoulders touching. You're more than that. The camera lingers on their warmth, then cuts to David repairing a neighbor's radio, earning a grateful smile. Rain lashes Port Harcourt, the camera capturing droplets on a cracked window pane. Inside their tiny room, David sorts through a pile of old belongings, decluttering to make space. He pulls out a dusty wooden box, hidden beneath a stack of clothes. The camera zooms on his puzzled expression as he opens it, revealing yellowed legal documents and a faded photo of a smiling woman, his late mother, Adana Vance. A flashback unfolds. A young Chibuzzer, maybe 10, sits with Adana in a lush garden. You don't need wealth to be happy, Chi, she says, her voice gentle. Find what makes your heart sing. Back in the present, David's eyes glisten as he reads the documents. A private trust fund, set up by Adana before her death. It's modest by Vance standards, about 10 million naira, but it's free from his father's control, a lifeline she left to support his independence. Amara! David calls, his voice urgent. She rushes over, peering at the papers. Your mother, she believed in you, Amara says, her voice soft. This is her way of setting you free. David nods, emotional. She knew I'd never fit in his world. It's enough to start something real. The camera captures their shared hope, a turning point. A quiet evening, the Port Harcourt skyline glowing in the distance. David leads Amara to a small community park, where fairy lights twinkle in an old mango tree. She's blindfolded, giggling nervously. David, where are we going? This better not be another market adventure. He chuckles, guiding her. Trust me, just a few more steps. He removes the blindfold, revealing a simple picnic setup under the tree. Blankets, lanterns, a basket of roasted plantains and zobo. Amara's eyes widen, touched by the effort. David takes her hand, his voice steady but thick with emotion. Amara, I came to this city to find myself. Instead, I found you. You saw me, not a name, not a lie, but me. He kneels, pulling out a simple silver ring, its delicate design catching the light. This isn't from my father's world. It's from mine. Marry me, for real this time. Not for a grant, not for a charade, but because I love you. Amara's breath catches, tears streaming down her face. David, yes. 1,000 times yes. They embrace, the camera capturing their joy as fireflies dance around them. The ring, modest but meaningful, symbolizes their authentic love. A vibrant montage, a small, joyful wedding under the same mango tree, surrounded by a handful of true friends and neighbors. Amara wears a simple white dress, David in a tailored but modest suit. They exchange vows, their voices steady with conviction. I promise to love you in truth, always, Amara says. David echoes, and I promise to be your partner, in every dream, every fight. Mind weaves rise. With the trust fund as seed money and Amara's successful Zenith pitch, the startup gains traction, securing partnerships with rural schools. David, now openly contributing his tech expertise, designs a low-cost server system, amplifying Mindweave's impact. A news headline flashes, Port Harcourt startup revolutionizes education, led by power couple. Their story goes viral, shared across social media with hashtags like #LoveOverWealth. Clips of their journey, David's sweeping streets, Amara's fiery pitches, their humble wedding, inspire millions. The camera lingers on them walking hand in hand through Port Harcourt streets, now as partners in every sense. Amara's voiceover closes, we started with a lie, but we built a truth stronger than any fortune. Amara and David on their balcony, looking at the stars, their future bright. The end.